Can you hear me? So, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Art and Science Center of Ignacio University, we are pleased to introduce you Ignacio Nieto and Marcelo Velasco. Marcelo is a biologist with expertise in neuroscience and media art, while Ignacio is specializing on new media and art theory. And today they will give a lecture about art and science and explore the fascinating intersections in ways of knowledge creation among both art and science and their historical development, with particular focus on Latin America. So please welcome Ignacio and Marcelo.
Very much. I think we're going to use this one. Veronica, we want to use this one. Yes, it's fine, the sound? Yes. I have to make a short introduction to the presentation of Ignacio. He's going to talk about some kind of the history of cybernetics and relation with Latin America during the 70s, the 80s, and its relation with art. So that's going to be the second presentation. So I wanted to start showing where we belong. We are almost in the other side of the earth. Here is Chile. We live here in the center. You can see it's a very thin country with part of it as narrow of 80 kilometers. And it's a very very market climate. So it's a desert, the Mediterranean center, and here is a kind of a rainy, cold, you can say, forest. Okay, so maybe we can see then some images. So this is the north. We have this is called salars that are very particular places with salt. This is the desert. This is the driest desert in the world. And this is the highest lake in the world also. So this is some of the fancy trivia of the north. Also in the north, we got one of the biggest open pits mines in the world, and we call it the sueldo, the salary of Chile. The salary of Chile. We mainly produce copper. That's this is the main income of the country, and this is a huge mine that have been producing since 1915. In the desert also we have a very strange phenomena that every 5 years or 4 years with very shallow rain, all these flowers appear. And then 5 or 6 years later, the phenomenon occurs again. This is the capital. This is a clean day. It used to be contaminated, polluted. And we're a very seismic country. So all these buildings that you see there are all very safe. We have very strong earthquakes and almost nothing happens. It's very secure. So if you travel to Chile and you have luck, if you're lucky enough, you may experience a nice earthquake there. And this is the south, in like these forests, this type of, this is Patagonia. So it's, as you can see, they're very different, let's say, climates and ecosystems along this narrow and long the country. So, just a short snapshot. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about art science. We have been working on this subject around 10 years from now. I come from biology. And then, let's say, 15 years ago, I started a master's degree in media arts. I make a kind of change. My brother is an artist, so I was interested in all my life about it. And I took the chance to study arts, not to do art science. I wanted to get involved in media arts, but once inside, science pushed me back somehow. And okay, so some history, short. I used to work in neuroscience, and I used to work in the perception neuroscience. And our animal of experiment were pigeons, and they do amazing things like have a magnetic perception. So if you take a pigeon from St. Petersburg and you travel 50 kilometers anyway, and then you come back and you free the pigeon there, and then you come back and the pigeon will be waiting you in something will be back. So they do amazing things like that. And it seems that they do it with a magnetic perception. And nobody knows how it works. Nobody have found the particular receptor of magnetism in pigeons and in any other animal. But they know that the pigeons have magnetoreception. So we were working on some theories on how could this work. We don't even know where in the body of the pigeon may these receptors be placed. So one theory that I find it particularly interesting was that maybe the pigeon, what to do is to hear the magnetic field. So it's not a different perception, is just the hearing of the pigeon that is biased by the position of the head. So when the pigeon is flying this way, sound, the air may be one, and if it changes the position, it will be another. So in that way, the pigeon would locate in the world. So this idea of hearing magnetism, I don't know if it was clear, it got a kind of complex mechanism, because it seems that the cells in the hearing got somehow perceive the magnetism with a ferro particle that is being influenced by magnetism. So in that way, maybe the pigeon hears magnetism. I don't know if you can ask anything or make any disclaim or what. So I said at that moment, I was starting my art course. I said, well, maybe we as human could do something similar, but with some kind of sensor. We already have sensors of position, like a compass. So if I put a compass in my head and I move, I can have the numbers of the position with quite precision. So maybe with that number, then a microphone and also an earphone, I can bias a little bit what I hear once I move the head. Is that clear? Maybe I can pitch it. So once I'm looking this way, the pitch is a bit low in terms of view. And if I move this way, it's higher, sharply. But if I use it enough time moving in the world, maybe in some moment, I don't perceive the difference in pitch, but I perceive location. Because it gets in my daily life, this relation. So the brain used to forget one part and gets with the other. So I will have an instantaneous knowledge of where my head is moving because of this sound magnetism relation, as the pigeon does. So this example, if you get it, it's not complex. I will be happy to explain more in a moment. Show it to me that I could make a move from science to art, because this type of mechanism and apparatus are kind of possible to build in an artistic, let's say, in an artistic world. Because maybe if you're doing as a technician, you have to do it as a technician. Or maybe if you're doing in science, I'm not sure if it's a truly a scientific experiment. But in art, you will have the opportunity just to do it and build it and start using it and doing kind of performance and kind of embody this new perception. And maybe that's more interesting in the field of art than in the field of science. So it have no, it's not something to be used. It's not something utilitarian, but it's a kind of artistic act. Yeah. So that's why I saw that science could be related to art. At that time, I didn't have all the theoretical background that you have now in terms of technology, human technology relation, and technology embodiment, and all that. That wouldn't be very useful for me at that time to let me say, to fundamental as a fundamental of this work. Okay, enough. So, okay, the next one. So what I saw at the time when I was studying is that science was deeply influencing contemporary art. Artists were very interested in science. There were some movements like systems arts, like bioarts, and also like media arts that were all the time looking at science and taking ideas from science. But what I saw is that it was not a deep relation in terms of the scientific ideas. It was more kind of anecdotic. That is fine, but I was missing something more that could be also interesting for example, for scientists. So the work of the artist could be also interesting for the scientific community on that field. So if the artist is doing some ecological work, that work could be also interesting for scientists that work in ecology, for example. So the next one. So I raised this question: if contemporary art could influence science, but the question was possible how to do it, because already scientists don't bother about art, at least at that time. And why? Most importantly, why you should do that? Why should scientists like contemporary art? Okay, the next one. So with all these ideas and meeting Ignacio and working together, we did some research that we're going to synthesize now. This is the book that is brand new this year. It appeared by Springer. That is a Swedish German publishing huge company, and it's mostly scientific. So we were very proud to publish in a scientific publishing editorial, not art, in order to, not because we didn't want to do it with art, but because in this way we can broaden our influence of art in the world of science. So what we did, maybe that's too long. Maybe the most important aspects is that first of all, we try to find that art science have different categories. For example, you could have this painting. It's very old. It's from Rembrandt, 1632. You can say that this is art science. This is a kind of homage to the work of this Dr. Nikolai Poul. So from ancient times, you can say, okay, this is art science. It's a homage of an artist, that is Rembrandt, to an early scientific practice. And you can see that how the lights emanates from the model, light as knowledge, in a kind of shift from the purely religious vision to a more scientific view of the world. And then you can also have another type of art-science relation with this type of diagrams that Camillo Golgi built, for example, to show how the neurons, the structure of neurons. So he watched in the microscope and he invented, he didn't understand it, what was there in the tissue. And with his artistic capabilities, he was able to show this as a pure scientific document. That's what was his aim, to show science. And the next one. Then you may have science fiction. It's also art science. You can have writers, a lot of novels, films about art science or about science fiction. And I think that is a very nice example of how science influenced art and how art influenced science. Even science fiction, they build the future somehow, because first they got an idea of what the future may be, and somehow we start looking for that future. So that's another kind, another category. Maybe the last one we can choose. There are more, but this is the scientific study of the artistic phenomena, let's say, on how humans appreciate art. So this is a work done in the University of Vienna, and they study how we look to a paint. So they have detector sensors of the movement of the eye. So this is how they do a statistical work with many viewers. And this is how people look at this painting, concentrating in this part, less here and almost nothing here. So this is another different, absolutely different way of relating arts and science. So that was very important to us to understand that there were different types, and that when you were talking about art science, you could be talking about very different things. That for us was important, and we show that in the book. Okay. And then what we did was to find different art scientists that were currently working, that we found that their works were interesting and also what we call symmetrical. What we mean with symmetrical, it was that it was not the leader of the project was no, I would say in another word. It was not the scientist who got all the authority, as Camillo Golgi, for example, with neurons. He was interested in science, and art was a tool to show science. So the authorities in science. But then with Rembrandt, the authorities of the artist. He wants to do something in art, and then subject comes from science. So the authority is in art. So we find these examples of art scientists that were we call them symmetrical, with that may be interesting for artists and also for scientists, and also for the general public. So we did a kind of curatorial operation, and we chose 22 art scientists, and among them was Dmitry Bulatov. He's a good friend of Ignacio. Dmitry Bulatov with Alexei Chepkin made this interesting work with giant snails, and he put some tags here with kind of sensors on. Well, you have to see the installation. It's something complex, but the interesting. QR, yeah. So these snails interact in a screen once they get closer or not. So it's interesting because he's working with living beings, and also with sensors and virtual reality, things like that. The next one. So we interview all these people also. We made an interview asking them, what are you doing? If you're doing science, why don't you publish an article? We were like a bit pushing on that, you know. And if you're artists, why you are interested in science? And so with this questionnaire, they told us what the hell were they doing this kind of works. We also chose the work of Gilberto Esparza. He's Mexican, and he built this kind of robot that is autonomous. It uses bacteria to produce energy, and also have some solar panels and plants to clean polluted water. So this robot moves, and it can take polluted water from a river and clean it. So it's not a functional robot, it's an artwork, because this is not useful for cleaning water, but it's an autonomous robot, because the polluted water feeds bacteria. That's why it's a work of art. And he exposed them in a museum. And this is Daina Taimina. She's a Latvian mathematician. She currently lives in the United States. And she got the idea to work with these complex mathematical functions or geometry that is called hyperbolic planes as a three-dimensional object space. It's not easy to imagine it. It's at the times where there were no 3D printers, for example. So she chose to use crochet. And she found a way to crochet these complex structures that got a mathematician's background that I don't know it too much. So that's why she do that, in a way to students to understand it. And she also wrote a text showing how to do it. And the last thing that we show in our book is a kind of methodology. We are developing it on how scientists, for example, would start working in an art. How to do that? Because it's not easy. We have worked with some of them, and once you ask to make something more poetical or to something more different of what they work in, it's very difficult to get that. They usually make a diagram with boxes and lines. So we try to build this kind of methodology, and we want to stop there a little bit. So one of the steps that we take is, first of all, train scientists on contemporary art. Show them what is contemporary art, because usually they don't know at all what you're talking about when you talk about contemporary art, at least in Chile. But I think not only in Chile. Many of them don't have any idea. Maybe they have go to a museum and they see the works, but they don't understand maybe the logic and the process of making contemporary art. So that's very important. Something also important is that everyone can do contemporary art in principle, because you don't have to be good drawing, or you don't have to have a special skills in terms of crafting, but you can have a nice concept. So that for scientists allows them to use their own ideas to build an art. And that is new in contemporary art. And they can use any material. For example, they can use their own material of the lab, or whatever they would like to use, or what they can do a video, or they can use found material or whatever. So they have more tools now to show their concepts that hopefully come from science, from their own work, but in a different way. So Also, that contemporary art likes to trespass boundaries and diverge. Is it vocation to do that? So it's a way that science could be more creative with different things through the tools of art and contemporary art. So when you talk about creativity, I know that maybe you have heard a lot of, you have to be more creative. How do you do that? How do you manage to be more creative? So we think that the contemporary art process is a good tool to be more creative, divergent, and critical on your own scientific work. Well, participatory and subjectivity, this is very important because usually the scientific work ends in an article that just a few people read. And we believe that it's important that scientists could share their knowledge with the community because the community pays for their work and because their work may be very, very interesting if people understand what they're doing. So also with contemporary art, they could do these two operations. Usually subjectivity is banned from science. You cannot be subjective in science. That's one of the, let's say, rules of science for good reasons. But sometimes you need to have we believe that there are some spaces where scientists could be subjective and they can tell and show their own feelings on what they're doing and why, what they expect in the future, what are their if they're afraid of something or what they're doing, why they like it, etc. And usually scientists have no space to do that. Okay. So so first train them on contemporary art. I don't know if we are doing time or where to. Okay. So first train them on contemporary art. As artists learn science to do their art science work, I do think that also scientists need to learn contemporary art as a fast way to start working on art science. Then we have some strategies to change the metaphors that they have in their work. A classical metaphor in science is, for example, in immunology, the idea of war. So pathogens are an enemy, and our body defends on them with some strategy. So if you see, there are a lot of war metaphors in terms of our immune system, for example. Or the other typical metaphor is that the brain is a computer. That's a metaphor. The brain, why should be a computer? But it's a metaphor. And once you take that metaphor, all your science start functioning in terms of that metaphor of brain is computer. So it manages information, it processes information, it delivers a result. All those metaphors come from computers. So maybe brain is another thing. Maybe brain is an ecology of neurons, for example. And if we start seeing it as an ecology of neurons, maybe the questions, experiments, everything change. And maybe we can learn new things about the brain. Okay, so we think that's very important to start thinking and looking for different metaphors on our scientific subject as a way to open minds. And ¿será la última? No, dale una más. And also we think that it's important a proper translation. Many times when you want to do art science works, you put together the artist and the scientist and okay, start working. And with that operation, the artists get frustrated and the scientists get angry because they don't understand each other. And the discussion is not a good discussion. They mostly get frustrated and nothing happens mostly of the time because they don't know each other. They don't know what they do. They don't know their goals. So that's why we think it's important to have a proper translation. Someone that would help them, like as a maybe a third part, that could help, some kind of coach that could help them in order to make this dialogue more fluent. And we know many experiences that have failed because of this. For example, they call for a residency in a laboratory, and then the artist get there. Nobody helps him, and he just walks through the corridors, and then he tried to do some artwork. So we think that that's not the way. We think that have to be a proper mediation or translation to a successful result. Okay, it seems that I'm over. So yes, you are welcome to Chile if you want. We like to receive people there. And I don't know, questions now? Okay, so we are open to questions. If you didn't understand, it was too fast, or you have any complaints or whatever. No questions now? Okay. Please. La última. This one?
Marcelo, firstly, thank you so much for the lecture. And
Welcome.
secondly, in the last points, you are mentioning that there should be proper translation between artists and scientists. How do you think, should it be a person or some kind of a handbook to basically explain something? Some kind of connectivity issue between them and tries to answer the question, what artists from scientists and vice versa?
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, maybe the first point is very important, to train the scientists in contemporary art so they can understand this. For example, in a residence that an artist is coming to a laboratory, so he can understand what this artist is going to do. Because usually they have a pre-idea that this guy is going to come, we're going to look, and he will paint a picture or take pictures or whatever. So it's important to show them the process and the complexity of contemporary art, maybe show them art science works, show them bio art. So in this way, they can learn, oh, okay, also this is what you're talking about. This is very important. And also they have to be enthusiastic with the idea, because if they don't bother, they better don't do it with him. There are other laboratories and other people that may be more interested. This is not for everyone, okay? But we believe that it is very useful for a laboratory to do that in terms of communication, in terms of opening ideas. So we truly, and also to make the scientific practice more, to open some of the windows and more, maybe more fun, because sometimes it could be very, very stressing. Okay, so maybe you can have a manual, an article. You can have maybe what the art science masters do or the art science centers do to show what means this. And also to have a person. Maybe a person is a great way that could be there, that could be in the first meeting, that could translate the concepts. So maybe all those are important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really curious. Is it working? Okay. I'm really curious, what are your thoughts on this question? Why would they do that? Why would scientists do art? What's the motivation?
Okay. That was the slide that I want to put it, but likely I didn't put it. We think that there are many reasons. What we saw when we worked with mostly graduate students is better to work this issue because they're younger, they're more, I don't know, open, motivated. And the importance we think is that you can change the questions that you are opening in a problem. So we think it could be quite deep influence on the scientific work. So in the best world, through the art science process of a scientist, that is, he's working on his own field, on his own questions to deliver artwork, he may open new questions of what he's doing and maybe new ways to resolve the problems and maybe also new ways to do the experiment. The other reason is that it's a very good way to show to the public what you're doing. Usually, scientists, what they do is they explain what they do in a kind of easy language, but it's very authoritarian. So you talk to the ignorants that they don't know what you're doing. We believe that with an artwork, it's more horizontal because the artists have to take risks to make the artwork. Art is about risks. They love risks. And they love to be confrontacionales or to front people with something that surprise. So once you force the artists to do this, because they never do that. If you go to a congress as a scientist, I cannot speculate. I have to be sure of everything that I'm saying. So we open in art these other spaces. Thinking on the scientific subject, more than just making an artwork, because we think that it's a process to open the mind on your problem.
Can I ask one more question? I think I have the similar question. So the art and science, it's more in general about the science, as you said.
No.
Because okay, because
But I got a question.
that,
You're right, but
art is central and more about the existential questions. And actually, I don't understand how art and science
okay. I said no because most of the art science world belongs to most to art. Artists are more interested in science. They do most of the art science works, but what we are presenting now maybe was the objective of the goal of this presentation is that we can also invite scientists to do art science, but in a proper way. So you're right. Scientists that do art are just a few, but we are starting maybe with all this book and all these lectures to open the field to also to scientists. And you asked another thing about. You said also.
So that art more about essential.
Exactly. So what we do is to open, maybe not for everyone. We don't want to do this as like a general practice for all scientists, but we think that if scientists open to this philosophical, existential, critical practices, they can deliver great work because their knowledge of the subject is very, very deep. So, for example, someone that is working on black holes, he knows a lot of black holes, and maybe he can deliver a great artwork about black holes. Because nobody knows most that he about the insights, about the existentials, about the critical aspects of black holes. So his artwork would be great.
So it's existential questions of
Yeah, it's an art science approach to black hole, and that means that have existential questions, uh, subjective questions about future, about why he, as a scientist, likes to work with black holes. Usually, those questions are not explicit, and I think that many times are the more interesting part of science, and they do not appear in the art. You don't see that in the art. Maybe sometimes when they are famous enough and they win the Nobel Prize, they in the conference say why they like the subject, or maybe they write a book. But in the meanwhile, you never know that. So we think that this is a good place to do it for those who want to do it.
No, you were just saying that this using art, um, like art, scientists need to use art as a way to communicate more things and for people to learn a lot of stuff. But I feel it right nowadays, science is one of the main topics all around the world. I've never seen someone talking about this.
About talking about
Uh,
okay, yeah, it's good. Well, nobody talks about contemporary art. If you see, the very small world, the contemporary art is a very small world, and this practice is not. There's no scientist doing art at all now. That's why we are here in this university giving this lecture, because we are starting with this process, inviting. That's why the Art Science Center. How many years does the Art Science Center have? 5 years. 5 years. So it's a new process, and we think that is interesting. We think that it could be fruitful, and as you mentioned, everybody talks about science. So in that way, we can also open science to art because it's mainstream. So okay, it's mainstream. So let's do art also with science, and let's be more critical, and let's be more reflexive, and let's be more existential. Maybe this is the moment. And if you see, many times the science communication, as I see it, is a kind of journalist operation, and usually up down. So I explain you what I know, and I believe that it's important, and you as an audience have to give it. And sometimes yes, but sometimes no. It's not that critical approach on what the people is doing. So we think that is an alternative. Yeah. But again, in the artistic ecosystem, you come from science. You were studying
sorry, so I studied advertising and then I turned to math.
advertising. Okay.
Now it's-
So the contemporary art field is huge. You got festivals, you got many platforms that that do contemporary art, but maybe you don't know it, or maybe scientists don't know it. As the scientific world also, it's huge, but many people don't know about papers on, I don't know, some specific topic. Yeah. So any questions? More? Thank you. No, please.
Yes. I'm just curious about your experience. Like you already told us that you were biologist and you wanted to study to be interested in contemporary art, and you understood that you want to mix it. And I'm just, I'm just curious about this moment. Like I guess you were already interested in art and right. So, can you just tell us
how that you are to have the time to until it's in contemporary art with kind of like your about it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I didn't get the question.
yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I almost get it, but I didn't get it.
okay. The first question, what was the thing that pushed you to this to make your first project?
Ah, well, I think was a personal interest, first of all, just to do it because I found it interesting. When you work on perception, you get a lot of interesting things, crazy operations, that experiments. So it's quite interesting. So always you have the time when you're studying this, you always say, oh, maybe we can do this, or maybe we can do that. And once I get to the video art masters, then being there, I felt free, maybe, to put in practice maybe these crazy ideas in the realm of art.
Yeah. Really cool that you I was for me it was really like art and like how can I do art from this point because like
Absolutely.
yeah, that's really inspiring to you found like this is about your mindset and maybe we have something how to improve our mindset.
Okay. Well, that's why we talk here about methodology. I just presented in a very broad way, but we think that if you work with scientists enough time, maybe some sessions, you can help them to put their scientific work in a kind of artwork. Exactly, because every scientific work have a lot of material to do art. A lot. You start looking and deeping, and you find a lot of ideas and connections. And usually, it's easier to make connections. So like you're working in something, make connections with society, make connections with your own, make connections with, I don't know, different aspects of the world. And in that way, you start building something that it could be interesting from your own scientific field. So it's a process, and we're going to be here. We're going making a course here. It's a 3 weeks almost course where we're working with the art science master, and we will be working on that. So if you're interested, you may maybe go close to the art center and learn more how to do this. Okay.
Here.
Marcelo likes to speak too much. Me, I don't. I, we decided that way. Well, my name is Ignacio Nieto. I'm a teacher at University of Finisterre in Santiago, and I teach electronic devices and programming interfaces to do installations. Actually, I finished my PhD in aesthetics and theory of art. And I'm very aware about I'm a little bit specialist in Latin American new media movement that was very intense during the 2010. And we, as Marcelo said,
we are a very isolated country, far away from the centers of the art and science. But in my case, I have a computer early when I was a child, then a connection to the internet during the 90s. And I start to dig deeper what art was doing with the computer. So I met the avant-garde computer net art. It's like maybe you know Alexander Shogin or Olga Gurniova, or Yalina, that are artists that work on this field using browsers and hypertext phenomenology. And that's why I get involved with this community. I was very interested in that, and we start to got a group there that was called Troyano, like a Trojan course, like a beach. I made an exhibition there at the Biennale Video and New Media, and start to communicate with other artists that were doing internet art and also robotic art. So the internet gave me the opportunity to start to communicate with other artists, especially with Argentine artists, Colombian artists, Mexican artists, but also from the United States, German artists also, maybe from England, and I said as Russian artists. So that gave me the opportunity to know what was in the rest of the world, because the scene of art in Chile is very small, and as it is small, they duplicate, they copy, and they don't have original pieces. That I was very bored about that. So that's why I try to work on that and start to do some exhibitions. And I was doing, when I was doing the exhibition, I was very technically equated to do the job. As a curator, I was always looking at work, not was stressful, but by the idea of working with a machine, was like the horizon, yeah. We work with a machine where we are doing avant-garde, yeah. That's not a good idea for me. So I start to look at some philosophical issues on how the machine was built, but not technically thought. Huh? This way, we look at cybernetics. Cybernetics is a meta theory that belongs to several disciplines, mostly mathematicians, sociologists, psychologists, and biologists. Cybernetics in Latin America have connections because one of the first person who talked about cybernetics was a Mexican guy, a physiologist. That was called Kuro Rosenbluth. Yeah, and this is one of the main or seminal paper that's called Behavioral Purpose of Biology. Yeah, and it say the first is to define behavior is a study of natural events and clarify the behavior. So they were searching how behavior function or works in humans. But a second stage is to make an analogy about this statement, make an analogy of the machine, how they work. So Norbert Wiener, the one who coined it, the term cybernetic, was part of this was part of this art group, and he wrote a book about this cybernetic control communication in the animals and machine. It was done in two countries, one in France, another one in the United States, and that put the concept on Europe, also in the United States. Wiener have a work at the MIT because of that. Yeah, so the expansion of the notion of cybernetics, yeah, get wider, and the audience start to think about it. Yeah. Yeah. And here we could say that Robert Wiener dedicated the book to Rosenbluth. Yeah, Rosenbluth goes to Mexico. He don't like the United States. He works on physiology on Mexico City about an institute. Where? Okay. Yeah, telesignal. Yeah. So that's that's 1949 concept. And now in 1955, Hernan Rodriguez, a psychology, wrote this book, Psychology and Cybernetics. He was aware about the information of the process of your brain and how this kind of technology interact with the world. I don't know how it's that brain, man. Okay. So there are several aspects. There you start several connections in Latin America about this topic. The next one. Another guy was a German guy that was that read the book of Wiener. That was called Max Benz. And he was professor at a famous school of design in Germany, that's called the School of Design. And he went to Brazil and influenced with this theory or this philosophy how to do the art. The Brazilian art was very folklore art, so he influenced the art of poetry and abstract painting was done after Max Benz go to Brazil. The next one. And then 1959, there's a seminal paper also that's called What's Frog Eye Tells the Frog Brain, and was written by Ledkin Maturana, a Chilean guy, a biologist, with the famous biology in Latin America maybe, or Marcelo Pitts, yeah. So the interconnections were started to make. Maturana went to laboratory there that was called Biological Computer Laboratory. So the idea of art, I think it's a long time ago. Okay, then let's work. Here we got 1959, a group of artists, AC artists from Argentina that works on CAIC. CAIC was a center of art and communication, and start to work from computers. So that this is one of the most important movement in Latin America of art, and a person that was a curator that called Jorge Glusberg made this exhibition type, and then traveled with the exhibition in the United States, in several parts of Argentina, etc. And he was so very important that he finished her work, right, and start to do he was the curator of the National Museum of Buenos Aires. He dies doing that work. The next one. And here we got a Chilean artist, the most important artist that works on the field of interactivity and video art. He made it in a gallery in Washington, in which interaction belongs to the capacity of the photo cells sensors and draw response here, the panel that is happening, and was very, very innovative in that way, and was done in 1969. The next one. There's another artist here that is called Teresa Burga. Teresa Burga also studied at Chicago, and this work of art is some measure of the distance of each part of the face to see what is the characteristical physiognomy of the face of Latin America, especially in Peruvian humans and mans. He do this work and start to work and build a software in the integration department of the Peruvian department of so was a kind of work not only in an artistic way and also in a controlled way to establish how the physiology of the human and autism and years this kind of graphical. The next one. And here we got maybe Maturana, that's on the right, from Fester, Keynes, and was the department of the computer lab. And here we got this guy that's volunteering with Young Blood, recently have died, and write a book that is very famous that is called Expanded Cinema. Expanded Cinema is a kind of Bible how to produce video art, not in a not recording the scene, but the signal, electronic signal, or painting the film, etc. The next one. And cybernetics, I haven't talked about cybernetics too much because it's a complex topic. That in 1970, here's a advertisement of cognitive process, of how was a class from Fester and K. Fester but Maturana and other kind of scientists in this class, and was a kind to introduce cybernetics because the government of Allende have built a system to control the economy that was set up by a cybernetician that was called Stafford Beer. This one was an activity to know how it works. It's a document from Kenneth Newton, but belongs to the biological computer lab. To finish with it, here we got Cybersyn. that was the office where the president Allende will sit, and he had the control of all the economy. They saw this slide and also have the communication directed by telefax. This another companies, for example, truck companies from the state or train. Yeah. This setup was an idea. Chet to see that this was a surprise for this setup. It doesn't exist anymore. But in this way, during the 90s, 70 teachers staff of beer built machine that was used by Sanguinetti, the Uruguayan president, that was similar to this on a calculator. So that was sold to Buenos Aires City, 90s, and work. So there's trying to resume there's some kind of stuff like control machines, also interactivities, physiology, how machines relate to human activity, about the stimulus, cognitive process. There are a kind of stuff that's very important to know. That will give us the idea that how machine is built for what, not a machine that is built Phosphorian fabric, where you have the machine and have the last machine in the world because it's the best one. Yeah, there's a purpose that deeper to know, and in that way, we think about machine built more intelligent way. Any question? Oh, okay.
Right in it. So could you please tell us how you came to art and science? Maybe there was some trigger to start doing such interdisciplinary research. And am I right that it was because of the computers?
Yeah. In the first phase, I was interested in the computer. I was very young when I got a computer. I got a Commodore 20 that was had 20 kilos of memory and target television. And they got a Windows 95. But the thing I want to express that I was interested in the machine, how to communicate with that, but want to go deeper how or why the machine was built. So I got that idea. Yeah, not for the technical issues, but just to work on the computers, but about these topics, how the machine was thought and was structured, and there are a lot of theory about that. So we went that first. From that side, I went to work with computer, but I also made a master program of educational informatics. So I'm like a show how they connect or work with the computer and actually analyze what's doing. Story about that. So I have a different approach for this approach. I think not a technical issue also, but theory in the computer, but how we interact with them. And that's the general idea. And at that time I met Marcelo. So
Can also tell something about how you meet there, how it was.
yeah, Marcelo went to my house and he was asking to resolve a problem, an issue about an electronic device, and we got friends. Yeah, technical problems. We got some drinks and we got friends. And he's my friend till 1913, maybe. Yeah. So we are related to this, and we are always searching that kind of thing to be done both ways. Because the discipline, the grade of Marcelo is theology and the start. And he made a new media master, and I do a social education informatics master. So we got a background in quality research and research also.
Thank you very much. So it's about technology and friendship. Yeah, so cool.
It's
I will-
very different to find a person who works with that. Huh?
have
Mm.
one more question.
Yeah.
So could you please give an advice to those who would like to start working with art and science? What should they do?
Wow, it's a long trip. But if you are working in art of science, you have to be specific to the image, maybe subjective activities, but also try to know or explain the phenomenological issue, like work fields. You have to go deeper to study those topics. It's not quite easy, but it's a long trip to, maybe the pieces are done for 3 years. It's not very fast. It's very difficult.
Yeah, I will add that even that art science have happened from the beginnings of humanity, we didn't make this typical historical view, but art science have been together from a long time. Maybe the first time that they separated was starting with the positivism, and maybe now they are kind of joining together in some areas and some things. So I think it's an adventure that those that are interested should start in maybe their own research. A good way is to learn a bit about the sociology of science, also learn a bit about the sociology of art. So it's a way to look at art and science at this concept, to learn about these communities, strange communities, what they feel, how they see the world. And if you are an artist, become involved in science, hopefully inside the laboratory or in a kind of formal way. You don't have to study physics, but you can go to a course maybe, or you can get a field that you like and get a PhD. And if you're a scientist, as we said here, maybe get more involved in contemporary art, and also start and not don't have to buy the good stuff. But maybe some of these subjects are starting to appear. So it's just a matter of curiosity. Maybe you have the internet, so
Yeah, and another thing I think is very important that you must consider the practice of art like a form of knowledge also. Usually we thought that the scientific knowledge is the real knowledge, that the practice of art have their own knowledge that belongs to the experience. They don't really follow this. is a code for knowledge, but so take the dimension of that. It's very important to work on the field of art and science too.
Yeah, thank you. I also have a question. I know that you have known Dmitry Bulatov, the pioneer of art and science in Russia. Can you please elaborate and say like how you met and maybe how you known each other?
Yes, I saw his book Bio Mediale. I don't know the date, maybe 2004.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I wrote an email. I thought that he would give me the book, but he said no. This book was this money, so I paid Western company the money to send me the book. So that was the first contact with him, and then we got an interview on one of the exhibitions during 2005, I think, and we got a Skype communication. I think it's like his work. When Skype was very rare, nobody knows what. So it was very impressive to have Chilean space thinking about biology and art. Very special.
Yeah, I would add that in this new field that are sometimes are very small at the beginning, it's very important to be open to the rest of the world. Sometimes, for example, trying to do your work in more than one language in a way that you can communicate with people abroad. That's very important when it's a new field. And particularly in Chile, that is very small. So you have to be open to other people. For example, as what Ignacio did, that just send an email to Dimitri. And it's more easy than what you think. People like to respond when you just communicate to them. So that's an invitation. Also, I would like to say that when we made an interview to Dimitri for and he didn't want to speak in English because he said that he had been misunderstood. So he wanted to have he didn't want to have the interview, so we offered him to have a translator. So we looked for a translator in Chile. So, okay, we didn't have a budget, but we had some budget for 1 hour. And this person get to the house. He was very formal because he used to work with lawyers and with all these complex subjects of people that have problems with documents. So he arrived home, and then we start the interview with Dimitri, and he started explaining. I don't know if you know him, but for example, he started about his emails and I don't know crazy things. We invite you to look at him, and this guy was trying to translate. And then in a moment he said, "No, I can't do this. I can't do that. I don't understand what you're talking, so you don't have to pay me. I will leave." So we calmed him because we were taking notes. We told him that it was perfect. That was what he was saying. That was the subject. So he was right, and he was a bit upset, and he was white. And then Dimitri started talking in English, and yeah, that's it.
First of all, thank you so much for these lectures. They're really interesting. Well, I have a question to. I know that art and science projects are basically just working sound with art and science projects. Whether okay, there is a spectrum and some projects can be more scientific, it's really into that. And some can be more scientific. When it comes to personal opinion, what that the whole project must have, and it is considered more of an interdisciplinary project, more of a scientific.
That's yeah. Yeah, I want to add something. Um, there's a little bit movement of scientific disciplines, some way they like different tools to investigate or uh, they do the research thinking about human beings. And the idea is think about not a human being, but not plant or an animal. And in that way, we have to double the effort to research the animal or the plant on or stimulate. And apart from that, also the anthropocentric ideology that scientists, there are opportunities, there are kind of human relations, and I think that we have to go the other way.
Thank you so much. I have probably two questions. The first one, could you please elaborate on how is cybernetics connected to art?
Yeah, cybernetic connected to art and like a movement. There's a famous, yeah, I don't show, but there's a famous exhibition in England that's called Cybernetics Serendipity. In that case, we got here, for example, a work of cybernetic art, which there's a response in the machine. So there's a relation between the machine and the human, and communication between them. And that's the general idea of cybernetics. It's machine control and communication.
Okay,
So
mhm.
Yeah, there's a famous group in New York that was called IT, that belongs to mathematicians, engineers, and art. That was painter, a famous painter there, Robert Rauschenberg. He works on this field, doing this kind of stuff also. So mentioned in the starting point maybe that give possibility to interact with machine in another way maybe. The results here are very abstract, yeah, but there are a lot of art that works on these interactions. There are a lot of festivals, Art Electronica, Transmediale, that the eye or the focus of this kind of work. And actually, it's very popular in Japan and also in the United States. Experiment of art and technology. Yeah. For example, the processor of the computer that was built to the satellite in the United States was $1 million. And nowadays, that electronic device costs $10. It's like an Arduino, huh?
Okay, and the second one, um, what's happening now? What is happening in this intersection nowadays? Yeah, I mean the intersection of cybernetics and art.
There's not so powerful right now because the IA, the artificial intelligence, get bigger. Oh, cybernetic almost crash. For example, the biological lab wasn't accepted anymore. And they built projects that were not for military purpose. In the United States, several issues with that. So they left cybernetics, that kind of stuff. But in their way, there's a lot of information that the University of Illinois have. You can check it out because they thought how to build the machine. It's not a machine that function or work like this and find a different purpose. Yeah. I was thinking about um, Argentine man who artificial intelligence. He recorded the voice of the son that was died on the motorcycle, and the record of the voice works to communicate with that so to speak to the sun. Artificial intelligence start to work on that and answer. So, how are you going? I feel good, like something like that. I mean, artificial intelligence. Cybernetic is the base to work on that because of the interaction between them and machines.
Yeah, thank you so much. You gave me a good thing today. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a formal but interesting question due to this lecture. Our question is, why are you here? Why you come to Russia to provide and yeah, to provide your own exhibition, or maybe just to popularizing this art and science field?
Maybe Alexei has to answer that question. No. During Allende's government, they have an observatory. And it's a secret, but we bring the plant to Russia.
Thank you for this scientific